Right, hello everybody. Ukraine number 2 here. You might have seen the first one. Sorry they're so few and far between, but like I say, Project X works over years, and to try and get information in months is a bit of a problem. But anyway, we've sort of sent out emails and things, and this one is really about the causes and stuff. And you know, Putin was not making a good name for himself, but was being accepted. I certainly, like I say, I've been to Russia, and it was a good place. I mean, the people were great. You know, it wasn't what people think at all. All the museums we went to all the military museums, and they're great patriotic people. You know, they helped during the war and everything, but they seem to have, you know, this seems to have, okay, the Donbass, the breakup of the Soviet Union, Ukraine came its own place, but obviously there's people who want to be Russian. There will be, especially when you split places up. But, you know, 8 years of trying to get that either one way or the other, and the shooting down of, was it MH13? That was all because of this. It's just not worth it. You know, like we've said in the UFO videos, land and countries can't, you know, a planet doesn't exist or will cease to exist eventually, because there'll just be constant wars if you split the country up in the planet up into countries. Okay, you can't get away from where you were born. You've got to have been born somewhere, and you can call yourself from that area, but don't sit on your country looking across a border saying, no, you can't have what we've got, because then that becomes a money problem. So what's happened here is, again, it's land, you know, I want to keep my bit kind of attitude. So the Russian speaking people want to keep the Donbass, and Ukrainians want to keep it too, because it's historically, I think, historically, a part of Ukraine. So this is what's happened, and obviously Putin over 8 years has got more and more frustrated with nobody listening, and the fight going on and on and on and nothing happening, really, despite him throwing everything at it, or relatively, or arming people. He can't be seen to be going in, you see. But that all seems to have gone by the board. Now, what's caused that? First person who reckons that he might have a disease. Now, the recent pictures of him, I think yesterday or the day before, sitting at the desk with his defence minister. He was holding onto the table, his foot was tapping, he's got this huge sort of swelling around his neck, apparently. I mean, it's obvious because it's in the video, released by them. And he looks in pain. Now, whether that in pain is because of a disease of some kind, or because of Ukraine, nobody knows. So, you know, and the fact that he might be top 10, I can't understand why somebody hasn't knocked him on the head. But whatever you do, if any of you are listening to this, capture him alive, because he's the top person of a huge string of people, right down to the person who pushed the button on the rocket launcher, who's going to be up for war crimes. So keep everybody. Don't let anyone. Nobody should get away with this. So now, if you were Putin's doctor, you wouldn't want to go up to him and say, sorry, but mate, you've got cancer, because he'd probably have you killed. Or if you got it wrong, he'd have you killed. So that's number one. You know, what have his doctors told him? Is he ill? He's nearly 70, so he has to have had some kind of illness or disease, because even I've got a hernia, and I've got throat all sorts of funny things. I'm only 62. So that's it. Now, the other problem he's got is his advisors would never give him the truth, or they'll butter it up as much as they can because their head's on the block. Again, the military. Which commander is going to walk up to him and say, sorry, but I've lost 800 of your tanks, mate? Who's going to do that? Nobody. What one of the commanders has actually said is, oh, we've knocked out the Ukrainian tanks, but they're running up to them with a white paint and painting a Z on them, so they look like ours. Now, that could have happened, nobody knows, but I doubt it. But this poor old general, I think he's dead now. I know that 20 of them, or is it 40 of them, have died as a result of this. And I don't think the Russian people are going to put up with it for much longer. But again, they haven't got a choice either. They're being fed propaganda from one end, saying everything's okay, and from the other end, they're being threatened with, if they say something wrong, probably never to be seen again, to be beaten up or killed somewhere. This isn't in the 20th century, or should I say is it 21st? Well, the 2000s, this kind of thing shouldn't happen. Right, Russian soldiers. No food. Now, they've either been given no food because they either haven't got it, they've eaten it all, the trucks have been bombed that are supplying it, or a bit more sort of below the belt, the commanders have said, no, go and raid properties of Ukrainian people if you want food. To try and destroy the morale again. It's a morale destroying thing. So I've got a feeling they're starving them on purpose. They've been forced to fight. They've got a roundup team. If any of them run away, they go and get them and push them back, or either shoot them or push them back into the fight. Saying, don't worry, mate, it's all going to be over soon. All going to be over in a few hours. 40 days later. Yeah, promises of great things. Now, they all thought they were going on an exercise. And this has been borne out in a number of different situations. Number one, they took a lot of practice stuff with them rather than the real thing. Somebody was opening, poor old Ukrainian fellow who thought he'd had a huge great load of explosives. It was all drill. It was all in the right packaging. When he opened it, it was a lump of wood. You know, so they thought, and they've all got their dress uniforms with them, ready for the parade in Kiev. So, you know, they obviously weren't told the right thing. Messages home. You know, we're seeing hundreds and hundreds of mobile phone calls intercepted, telling the truth, basically. You know, the people in Russia don't believe it. The soldier says, well, you better believe it, because this is what's happening. A lot of them are threatened to shoot their own commanders. You know, there's so many different things, terrible things going on with these messages. Now, everyone says, oh, I don't know about these messages, they could have been done by the Ukrainians, you know, but it doesn't sound like it. I just don't think. Yeah, men collected by force. There's, I think it's a town where the Russian army have collected a lot of their stuff that have come back from Kiev. It's above sort of the Donbass kind of area, and in that town they've gone around collecting men from 16 to 75 by force. Come on, you're coming to fight with us. Give them a rifle, cannon fodder. So they're all being shot at as we speak. Yeah, rounded up and put back in fight. We've seen that one. No tents. Now, what do you do if you haven't got a tent? One chap ringing home said that they had dug trenches and sat in the trenches. But if I wanted the Ukrainian people to be in real trouble, I would tell my soldiers, not give the soldiers tents, so that they sleep in the Ukrainians' houses. And they have done that, and they've left a right mess. So that's another thing. And obviously there's all these memes and jokes about them pinching the washing machines because they haven't got them in Russia. And cars. You know, a lot of stuff's being stolen. And every time they blow a truck up, it's on the way back to Russia, there's all clothes and machinery and printers and computers and things stolen from the Ukrainians. But the commanders will allow that because it's demoralising for the Ukrainians, which is probably the whole reason for this operation, is to teach Ukraine a lesson, basically. Doesn't matter if they die. The commanders have been saying, shoot the civilians, shoot them. Lying to them, dress uniforms, yeah, drill explosives. Quite a few. Yeah, now, so what's going to be the problem? What's happened so far with this is that NATO has become a lot stronger altogether, has realised now that there could possibly be a problem, and NATO is now stronger and much bigger, or is going to be bigger, because more people are going to want to join because of this problem. So countries now on the Russian border will be joining. Yeah, so the EU is now strong too. All the sort of problems with us leaving and all that seem to have gone by the board. Yeah. If, say for instance, okay, he's now all in the Donbass. Say for instance that all gets taken over again. Will he carry on slowly through the country bit by bit? Now he knows he can sort of bite little chunks off just by throwing the amount of machinery and men, which is like 10 times what the Ukrainians have got. So, but I've heard different. I've heard where they're matched for the numbers of soldiers and things, but we don't know. So the other problem now is, if it gets stalemate there, Putin has now got a much bigger Donbass problem than he had before, hasn't he? Yeah, so what's the point in that? Eventually, Russians are going to be upset with him sending in the kids to die. That pretty much there's hardly any trained troops there now. It's all conscripts. You know, I think I said it in the other one. I really thought that he'd sent the rubbish, because all those tanks looked knackered to me. You know, then somebody said, oh well, no, they've got T-90s in there, they've got that Ka-52 helicopter. There's a lot of new stuff too, and a lot of sort of electronic weapons and thermobaric rockets and things like that. All apparently new stuff. So where is, you know, he must have something in reserve. What if NATO comes in from the other side while he's got everything at the far end of Ukraine? I would suggest we're going to have this problem over and over again unless something's done about it. So, you know, it's not the fault of the Russian people. They're under the thumb heavily. You know, do this or die, basically. Country's perfect. It's just literally the leadership. And there's another lesson for the world. Don't let one man control the pyramid of people below him. It's got to be a proper parliament. Can't be one person. Because if he goes a bit mad, this is what happens. You know, he must have thought it through. He must have had, he said he had people ill-advised, but I think they were just yes men. You know, tell him what he wants to hear, otherwise we're finished. I don't think it'll ever happen, but now it has. You know, the poor conscripts didn't know where they were going. Like I said, it's the rest of the world, you know. Germany with its gas, that's a big problem, that is, because 50% of their gas comes from there, so they're going to have a problem. But gas prices seem to have gone down in the last couple of days. So China appears to be changing. They were probably thinking they were sort of being sidelined by the rest of the world now, but if they go against him, they're thinking they're going to come back. India is a puppet, really. They import so much stuff from, including their military hardware, from Russia, that they've had to sort of, but even they're sort of on the fence now. So that's probably going to, and Syria obviously owes Russia, so they're sending men, not because they want to, but thought I heard somebody. It's when a car goes past, if it's a loud car, in here it sounds like a person calling for some reason. Yeah, and somebody suggested NATO invade while Russia's weak. There you go, that's probably the last thing. But, you know, where does it stop? I don't know. I'm suggesting it's going to be a long drawn out war, and either Russia will edge a bit at a time, or with all the stuff coming from NATO countries, there's going to be this massive stalemate until the Russian hardware and conscripts are all finished. Whichever happens, a lot of people are going to still die. Nobody's going to be able to go back to their houses. You know, the answer for everybody is for somebody to arrest Putin and start a new system in Russia. And the chap who is head of that is going to have to say, okay, back to normal, and everyone will snap back to normal. Because the madman has gone. And then he'll have to go to The Hague. And God, that's going to be a massive, years and years long case. Because the stuff they're finding, you know, you've seen it for yourself. But yeah, that's really the only way out. To snap back to normal is to arrest Putin. But he's put so many different guards in place for him not to do that. I'm just checking the time, 17 minutes. That I don't think it's ever going to, you know, nobody is going to be able to do that. He's got all those guards in place in order not to be knocked on the head. So, yeah. Well, that's it really. If anything else comes up, you know, we're working on this non-stop. We sent a lot of stuff, I must say. I've got, if anyone knows anybody else who's doing the weapons side of things, we've got about 800 spare 40 round AK mags. Brand new polymer, 40 round, not 30, so they're longer. AK-47 or 74 or any of those derivatives, if anybody wants them. Or I think we could probably do them. They're normally £45, or that's what we paid anyway, but 26 each for Ukraine. Okay, that's about it. I think there is another way out of this, but I'm not going to say it at this time until I get permission to say it, to do with our own deterrent. We probably wouldn't stop him. I mean, if he used nuclear weapons, which, you know, if you think about it, you're a madman sitting in a chair, you're going to die, or somebody's going to knock you on the head or something. You've got all this stuff you spent all the people's money on, sitting there doing nothing, rotting away. You know, will he want to see one of his nuclear weapons used? That's another thing. Because he appears to be pushing to get NATO involved all the time. So that's what we're worried about. And if it comes to that, then you'll be hearing from us. So let's see what happens. Okay, I think that's pretty much all I've got to say. I'll try and do a number 3 if I've got enough to talk about. Thanks a lot.